Thanks, Chiara. Yeah, I presented some of this in the last Pure conference, which was online. So I'm just going to move into basically how we started the project and what we've done in the last year, especially, of the project. So just a slight background was we started the data management planning project way back in 2020, and that's only because when the new Australian Research Council, the ARC code came out for research, for best practice of research, one of it was the requirement that institutions needed to be able to govern their research data, knowing where it is, where it's sitting, is it in a secure location, are they sharing their data appropriately, research data. And so we realized that the institution wasn't doing that really well at all. It's a massive gap. And so what we did was we started this project having a little bit of a framework. And the first thing we did, building from the ground up, was developing policy and procedure. And in that policy and procedure, basically, it states that all researchers need to develop data management plans. So researchers who have a research project, they need to develop data management plans. And this ties in with the national funders in Australia, which require that for researchers who have a project that they have funded, that now researchers need to develop data management plans. So we decided we need to give them some of the tools to help these researchers develop this data management plan. So obviously telling them they need to do it doesn't mean it's going to work. We need to provide them the tools as well. But in providing them the tools, we realized we needed to enhance our capabilities. Whatever we have, we might have all those different tools there, but we wanted to see how we could make something a seamless process for the researchers. Again, at the end game here for us was to make sure it was a good process for our researchers as well to engage with us. So then we sat down and looked at what are the different systems that we had, standalone systems, which researchers have to engage with individually, to see what we could make it into a seamless flow for them. And the main systems that we have were a research data management planning tool known as Redbox, our ethics system, which is different from the ethical review module in Pure. It's called Informatica. And of course, we also engage with digital commons data and data monitor. So just the take-home message is basically Pure sits at the center of everything. We wanted Pure to sit at the center of whatever we were creating. And from there, the first thing we did as the low-hanging fruit to give us data oversight from the administrator's point of view was to have data monitor switched on within Pure. And that allowed us to then see what our researchers were, it does the searches and comes into Pure in a highlight page, what our researchers, what data sets our researchers are publishing in which journals, and we can start having that visibility on stuff like data sets, especially not just published journals, but just the data sets as well. And then we also had the conversation that now researchers have to start doing data management plans, right? What does that mean? Do they have to then engage with us again to find out what's my next step, where do I go? So we decided that from Pure, we wanted to integrate Pure with Redbox as well, which is the research data management planning tool, which makes it easier for the researcher to just go, this is my next step. So for that to happen, basically we had to sit down with Alberto and the team to talk about trigger points, obviously, when the internal business is, because every university or every institution uses Pure differently or has different ways of using Pure. And our business case required that when an award has been awarded, there's still the back end of the research administrators having to make sure that the milestones are updated, the information is all, the PDFs and everything are attached in there, and then they go internally approved. And that becomes the trigger point for us to then have this integration. But at the same time, sometimes they don't create the project ID just yet because some of it is embargoed at that point in time. But that doesn't mean the researcher can't start writing up the data management plans and things along that line. So this is just one of the few screenshots that I'll have today. It's just showing how an award is, from an award to project in Pure is created. But the one that we really wanted to show, basically what the researchers would see once the award gets internally approved, is this email. So that email basically says, congratulations, your new data management plan is available. That's their Redbox ID that will be from the data management plan. Obviously, Redbox has its own ID for the plan, and the Pure Award ID as well. And the researcher gets this email and click here. So now the slides that I just showed you basically was this slide and this, they're both taken from my engagement talk because I need to tell researchers, look there, they know where, they need to know where to click. So it's just to let the researchers know that's it, that's their next step moving forward. And once the researchers click on that, they start to fill out their plans and they move along that. So that is what we wanted, we envisaged, and what we've been doing the last year. And so that's what it looks like. You can see that once the researcher clicks on that link and he goes into Redbox through a single sign-on, he will see that his or her plan has some of the metadata has gone across, like the project description, the project IDs, start and end dates, collaborators, contact information, emails, that's been drawn from Pure. And then they still need to go in and fill out other bits of the plan, like how long they're going to keep their data for, how sensitive it is, where they're going to store the data, and what they're going to think about in archiving, how to destroy the data. These are things that they must do. It's not something that we can just pull out from anywhere. They have to think about these sorts of things. So after we started working on that integration, the other integration that we also worked that helped our researchers was having DC data or digital commons data as the data publishing or sharing, and then enable them to do data publishing or sharing when they wanted to. So it opens up a workspace for the researchers after they've had the plan. If they want to publish data sets or share data sets, they can go into Redbox. There's a module that they click on sharing, and it takes them straight. It allows them to go into DC data for them to think about publishing data sets or even adding collaborators and use that as a workspace first and have their project sitting on there while they want to distribute data sets or publish data sets. So again, they are then able to basically get from a project to an active data set, and they can just publish it. And once they publish it, it kicks in our moderation flow or workflow that comes back to me and my team. We have to make sure that whatever they are sharing is whatever they want to, the data set they want to share, it's part of the FAIR data set. It's safe to be sensitively. It's not as sensitive. It can be shared publicly and those sorts of things. And obviously we moderate and send them. You get an activity and we send them. We can either approve or request changes, which is just the standard moderation workflow. And that basically leads to, from curated to published data sets. Once they publish the data set, it sits on the Pure record as well. So now the Pure has that record for the data set as well. It all seems well and good. And also we have that audit log, which is very good for provenance, especially to be able to ensure what we've done with the data set, who's seen it, and those sorts of things. And that's just part 2 of our planned integration. So the next step that we are currently working closely is to integrate. Let me try it again. There we go. Informatica, which is our ethics system, and that's also part of the researcher's life cycle when they have to think about research data management plan before they can start their project. They need to think whether they need ethics approvals for those projects, whether it be human ethics or animal ethics. And so now we are planning the workflows to see where the trigger points are going to be for them, for a researcher to have the same workflow where they can, when they click on it, it opens up an Informatica application for them with the basic metadata across, and then it will start filling out the rest of it. So the vision of that whole framework that we started was basically having researchers and research administrators, all of us, going to that one system, and that everything pulls, the information pulls back into Pure, so that we don't have the issue where the grants management team is going, does this person has ethics approval because they said they do, but we don't have it, and then we have to go and check in our Informatica system. Yes, they do have ethics approval, but then the problem is they might not have the same titles. They might tweak the titles here and there, and then it becomes a problem. I don't know whether it's the right one here because he doesn't say this or she doesn't say that. So this allows us to be able to pull it all into Pure. So that's very nice. The story is very nice and good from our end, which is this is what we are doing, so it makes it easy. The problem is, how do we get the researchers on board, because they are the ones that are going to have to do the research data management plans. So we had to think of an engagement strategy to get them involved on the research data management side, to use Redbox. To have this integration is good, but if they don't use Redbox, it's not, or they don't actively uptake it, it's not going to be good. So what we did from me and my e-research team, we sat down, we talked about, okay, what are the key topics here that we need to convey? One of it's going to be the fact that there's a policy that's in place locally as well as in UC, and of course Australian Capital Territory that they need this. It's legislated that they have to have some data management plans. We also want to let them know that our idea for doing that is so that you can think about secure storage for your data management plans. And also, we are trying to make sharing of your data safer. So they start thinking about this early, and we wanted to do that. So the pathways to success was, firstly, we had to develop support materials. And in the support materials, we needed to emphasize the benefits of research data management planning, the processes that they needed to go through, and how to access and what tools to use. So this was having to have that whole holistic view, as well as all the little intricacies. And this was a big challenge because when we took up this project, our e-research pages, the e-research team was very, very new. And when I stepped into it, basically our e-research pages had full of information, but you couldn't make sense of it because it's just mainly data dumps with links. And to sum it up best, one of my e-research analysts is Dr. Carl Hamming as well, who just completed his PhD. He did work on grass. Don't know how that happened. But he came on board, and when we started looking through the pages, the first thing he goes is, it's all here, but I never knew this existed. I'm really angry now. Of course, he said something else, but I'm really angry now. But that's the point. Like, so then we just, okay, we have to make it easier for other researchers. So let's come up with this project called What Would Little Kyle Want? And so we started talking about the engagement talks, how we're going to talk to them after we get the support material, the engagement talk, and obviously we run a pilot and a survey to just see how it was taken up. So the support materials, as I said, we had to revamp our page to nice little shiny boxes, telling them exactly, researchers can just click on one of these boxes to tell them exactly what they need to do for research data management planning. So we'll just look at the data management planning itself, and what it does is, what we made it do is we had to make sure they're given the steps involved for them to do it, just basically the steps involved for the researcher to do it. Again, with the mindset that once you get the email, this is what you need to do. Just come here, everything is here for you to just carry on the next step of the process. And we had to come up with researcher-specific guidelines, telling them exactly what they need to do in Redbox. So when we give the talk, we did tell them about Redbox as well, but there's the guidelines there as well to make it easier for them to just have to refer to. And then the engagement strategy talk. So it's not just going out to every faculty. We decided there are many users of Redbox as well. There's going to be HDRs, which are higher degree by research or PhD students. You've got your academics and your researchers, and you also got supervisors who need to supervise what their PhD students are putting in. So we've got 3 different user groups. And then we needed to go out to the faculties, and each faculty will have different centers, and those names change all the time. So we just took a snapshot of what it was there. We went out to the faculties and asked them, how do we best talk to your cohort? So it's not a case of, this is the talk, come at this time, but how can we deliver the information to you guys the best way for your faculties? You know your faculties and your researchers well, tell us. From that, we worked out how many talks we needed to do. Some faculties wanted like 5 different talks for 5 different sets, different groups, and we did that. It was a lot of work, but we did it. We went out to them, and so we structured it roughly about a 30-minute presentation with a lot of Q&As. Again, just emphasizing them the benefits, the process, and the access. So the benefits is a good thing. The process is what they're very involved in because they want to know, what do I need to do next? And they didn't want to go like, I don't want to fill out everything, but okay, what the process is for them to engage and how they're going to access the tools. And from that, the outcomes, we found that right now we've got about 90 plus active data management plans in Redbox, which as administrators we can see. And some of it are obviously our PhD students, which we mandate that they have to do it as part of their induction and part of their milestones. But the researchers have been engaging with it through the integration, because now once they've got grants awarded, they get the email, they click on it, and they start their data management plan. So next year, we don't have to go out and do many, many talks anymore. It's just business as usual talks. This is how it is, because now the awareness is out there, and also providing support if sometimes, if sometimes a bug happens, providing that support to make sure they can get going, or even if they don't know what a question means, they can come and talk to us. The pilots was really useful. The surveys, especially the pilots, were useful because we got a sprinkling of researchers to run the initial testing of the integration and the emails. The surveys were good because the survey was generally positive feedback, and a lot of the comments was, oh, if I don't have to do anything, I just wait for the email, that's perfect. That's what they wanted. That's what they were saying, rather than anything else. I think they actually appreciated that more than having to go and do the tool. They're just being told what to do next. And so now we are going to start working. We got open access guidelines for them to start sharing if they want to share on DC data, or if they want to go into other systems. Of course, we try to get them to DC data, but if they want to go on other systems, but at least they have some guidelines now. So the cons was, again, I mean, not cons, it's more for my team, was that very diverse user needs, which meant we had put in a lot of time, especially in the engagement part, which was the last 3 to 4 months, basically creating the guidelines, going out for many talks, gaining visibility. I think the key was gaining visibility so that they were aware of what to do next. And that becomes the drive, that culture change that we wanted to drive. So it makes it easier for us, actually.
So before going into the next project, I just wanted to say thanks for the questions. Please keep them coming. This is a panel session where everybody's a panelist. So let's feel completely free to, have thoughts if you have ideas. This is very much a learning process. When we approached this project, we went for, let's solve 80% of the cases, and then we'll figure out the remaining 20%. We're here to learn about the remaining 20%, not just for Canberra, but also for all the other institutions. And I've already had some conversations with some of you that were pointing out more complex situations. That's exactly the type of learning that we want to do, because we believe that we can adapt the workflows, and that we can design a workflow that is flexible enough to be fitted to the specific business processes of the organization. Speaking of which, I'm talking on behalf of Kirsty Metcalf from Teesside University. She couldn't come to Porto, so I've, of course, shared the slides with her. So what you're seeing here is actually me representing, to the best that I can, Teesside University. So if you have specific questions about the university, I might not be able to answer them, but I can refer them to Kirsty. If you want to know more about the project, technicalities and stuff like that, I can answer those questions, of course. So it's same like, and again, you will see a lot of similarities and some differences, and that's always the case. And again, it all starts with from the policy. And this is the website of Teesside University in the research section, where they have their policies for ethics and for research data management. And they both, and I've quoted the policies here, they both state that for each research activity, except, review, you need to have ethics clearance, and all new research projects must include a research data management plan, DMP, which details blah, 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 And this is not because of the funders, this is an institutional policy. This is very important because this is actually, this involves all the projects that are not externally funded. A lot of the research is happening with funds provided directly by the institution. Those projects are subject to the institutional policy. And those are exactly the projects that we focused on with Teesside University, which is one of the differences compared to Canberra, where we worked mostly on externally funded projects. But we saw that the two business processes were similar enough that we could use what we have built to implement two different workflows. So this is the scope of this project, was institutional research, as I said. So because the majority of the research projects that take place at Teesside University are supported by the institution directly, and there's no external funding. This means that if you look at it from a pure point of view, there is for those projects, there's not an award in pure. And because they usually create projects in the research office once the grant is awarded, they create the project off of the award. It's a one-click button, so it's very simple, as you've seen in Anesh's slides before. In this case, there is no project record in pure either. So this is research that, from the point of view of research managers, is pretty much invisible. And so the idea was, and therefore you cannot monitor compliance, for example, to the institutional policies if you don't see it, right? So the first objective was to make sure that those projects are seen and therefore they comply to the institutional policies, both of them. What's the benefit? So that's kind of the stick for the researchers. What's the benefit for the researchers? Well, the idea was, first of all, if you have to comply, we'll make it as easy as possible for you to comply. So lower the barrier to fill in your data management plan or get your ethics clearance. We've heard this morning from Nick in the keynote. He was mentioning the fact that we need to make it easy for the researchers. We need to ensure that we preserve as much time as possible for researchers to do research and let them be efficient in everything else that is where they are involved in research administration, research management. So we tried to do exactly that. And one additional benefit is that that we wanted to capture was to make sure that we can make that research, that institutional research, which is the bulk of research that is happening at the institution, visible in Pure. And the carrot for the researchers is you can have your projects, your institutional projects, in your profile in the portal, so you look much better to the rest of the world if you do that. So how did we tweak that the workflow to make this happen? Well, first of all, this is a very high-level view of the research life cycle, and there's multiple parallel work streams that are happening in parallel that are triggered at different points in time when certain things happen. So, for example, when the grant becomes internally approved, in their case, then the project is created, and then the researchers can start working on the project. When they start publishing their first outputs, then the library is supporting the publishing workflow. And what we tried to do was essentially to build these blue lines that connect the different work streams, that engage with the actor in the process at the right time in an automated manner, and leveraging the data that exists in one platform and move it to another platform, so that researchers don't have to start from scratch filling in all the basic data. They can only focus at the task at hand, which might be ethics or data management planning. So that's what we set ourselves up for. And each one of those work streams are supported by different solutions. So Pure does a lot of things, but of course it doesn't do everything. In the case of Teesside University, they also use Infonetica ERM for ethics approvals, but they use DMP Online for data management plans, or what's called known now as DMP Roadmap, I believe. And they also have Digital Commons Data as an institutional data repository, and they have Data Monitor to track the data sets in all the other repositories. So the idea was to move from an ecosystem of point solutions to, and you see again a very similar diagram, an integrated workflow solution. That's the other keyword that I'd like to stress, it's workflow. In the previous session, for those of you who were here, Graham and Ellen were talking about, okay, you've implemented Pure, now what's next? This is, I believe, what's next. We've been working with 2 customers that have been using Pure for a long time to support their use cases, showcasing, reporting. Now, the challenge was, can we really use Pure to effectively support business processes, making Pure into a workflow solution, and making Pure work together with other solutions that are involved in the workflow? So this is what we did. And the idea that we shared with Teesside was, what if we ask the researcher, when they start a new project, what they are doing now, we tell them, okay, you have to go to DMP Online and fill in your data management plan. Now, then you go to Infonetica and you create your ethics approvals for animal ethics, for example. And then you're good, you can do your research, and we know nothing about it. So we said, what if we asked the principal investigator to log into Pure and create a project record? So that's the starting point. Let's ask them to go into one platform, Pure, create a project record, and once that project record is created, then we can use the information that they have put here to create the data management plan, just like you've seen with the case that Anesh was presenting. We create the ethics approvals, and we can do that in parallel. And then we save them a lot of time because they enter the data here, and they find the same data here and here. They just have to fill in the relevant questions for data management and for ethics. So they don't have to do, again, new data entry. And they get the email with the links. This is the link to DMP Online. This is the link to Infonetica. And the other thing that we really want to build into this system is bringing this information back into Pure, so linking back that into Pure. You see them as dotted lines because until release 525, which has been released last month, right, October, we didn't have a mechanism to update the project record or the award record in Pure. But now we do, because we have the right API for applications, awards, and projects. So the moment we create an ethics approval, we get the ID from Infonetica, and we can push that ID back into Pure, which we are doing, actually. So it's automatically, the record in Pure is automatically updated. And likewise, when a project record is created, we also encourage researchers to embrace the research data management and to work collaboratively on data and to share the data. So we create an automatically workspace in DCD where they can collaborate. And again, all the project members in Pure are invited to this workspace, and they have read and write access depending on their role. And they can contribute to creating and publishing the data sets. And of course, once they request the data set to be published, the library will go through the moderation process, as you've seen before. And once the data set is published and the DOI is minted and it's out there, then the data monitor will pick it up and push it back into Pure. So you can see that into Pure. It's the same concept. We've just changed it a little bit, starting from the projects, and instead of having the research office creating the record that triggers the whole thing, we have the PI. And the carrot for the PI is, guess what? It will be much easier for you to comply to the policy, and your profile will be much better in the portal. So that's kind of how we're trying to encourage them. Yes?
Why would you like that? Why would you need data monitor to bring it back to Pure? Why could you not do this from DC data?
The idea is that they will not just be publishing in DCD, as Anesh said. They have the freedom to choose another repository, and therefore we give them that ability, and we still want to capture everything. In any case, the data monitor, you just need the free layer. By the way, it's the way you bring data sets from DCD into Pure anyway. So you can do that by just having the free version of Data Monitor if you're just interested in DCD. Those will come in automatically. And, okay, so just a couple of screenshots about Pure. There's a difference in the way the data management plans are managed compared to the ethics reviews. So we tested a number of ideas on how to pick the right template for ethics approvals, because when you are submitting a project for ethics clearance, it will go to a different committee depending on the type of project. Are you using, it's animal ethics, human ethics? There's different templates. The way we solved for this was to add a structured keyword where we list the available options. These are the options for T-side. So there's only one additional bit of information that we ask the researcher or the research office, depending on the situation, to add, which is tell me what kind of ethics you're going to require. And then we basically pick the right template from Infonetica, and we push the information to Infonetica using the right template. And finally, the other technical bit that I wanted to add is that we can link this information back. Now, we don't have a content type of data management plan in Pure. We don't have it yet, I should probably say. But I guess I have the feeling that it's coming, just like we have ethics review. Still, you can link that data management plan back to the award or the project if you want to. And this is a feature of the awards management module where you can configure these link backs. So essentially, you have an URL template like this one pointing to the data management planning tool, where the last token in the URL is the ID, that you are getting back from DMP Online in this case. So you can create a link, and using an external ID in the project record or the award record, you can have this link added as a link back in Pure that you can click, and it will take you straight to DMP Online or Infonetica, which is a very convenient feature. On the other hand, for ethics review, we do have ethical reviews in Pure. So what we are doing in that case is when you create an ethical review in Infonetica, we're also creating an ethical review record in Pure, so that you have visibility of ethics review even before they are submitted to the committee for review. And then, using the integration that has been developed together with Monash University, that is taking the data from Infonetica back into Pure, we keep that ethics review record synchronized with Infonetica. So when it's submitted, then you see it's submitted, and when it's approved by the committee, then you will see that it's approved and the date and everything else.